After 40 years, who remembers the Vietnam War? Who remembers the blood and sweat, the blunders and betrayals? Who wants to know about a war most Americans want to forget? See this, and you will. It's Vietnam, the 10,000-day war, and it could be...
A few hours later, long-range shells and rockets wrecked the airstrip, leaving no choice for Ambassador Graham Martin.
And I picked up the phone and told Secretary Kissinger to inform the President that I had decided that we would have to go to option 4 to the helicopter airlift for the remaining Americans and for such Vietnamese as we could get out.
Waiting off the southern coast is an evacuation task force of 3 American aircraft carriers with support ships and combat Marines. Noon, April 29th. The final exodus is about to begin. The ballad, "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas," is the code signal for the final American departure. As it plays over the American service radio, officials, businessmen, and journalists gather at the embassy. Some Americans have spent a decade in Vietnam. They have only hours to leave. Thousands of Vietnamese try to join the evacuation. They threaten to overwhelm embassy guards. For years, the symbol of a wide-ranging war, the helicopters can now only land on the embassy roof or in its secluded compound. Hundreds of Americans and Vietnamese officials wait in priority groups. The Marines briefly return to Vietnam to keep order. Some embassy staff spend their last moments shredding documents. Each chopper takes an hour to reach the evacuation fleet. Only a relative few can make it. One is former Prime Minister Key.
I landed on the Midway aircraft carrier, and the admiral captain of the ship received me. And he left his office with his staff and just left me alone. So I stood there for 15 or 25 minutes just crying by myself. I couldn't stop it. Even I said to myself, oh no, I'm a soldier. Never cry. But it happened.
By now, hundreds of Vietnamese civilians are attempting to crash the embassy gates. Only the most persistent break through and get a chance to escape. In previous weeks, 100,000 South Vietnamese have bought their way out. But the sudden American evacuation still leaves behind many long-serving Vietnamese. Senior CIA analyst Frank Snepp.
I was sitting by the radios at the top floor of the embassy, monitoring the flow of intelligence as it continued to come in from various places. I listened to the radios, and I would hear people calling in over our radios, agents and employees who had been abandoned at various evacuation points. I'm Mr. Lon. I have served you for years. Save me. I am Mr. Ha. Save me. and there was no way to save them then. That, I believe, was the most tragic thing for me on that final day. The voices over the radios, and I still sleep. I have nightmares, and those voices still play in them.
An alternate evacuation plan is departure from Saigon by barge. Though encircling the city, the communists make it known they want an uncomplicated end. They briefly delay their final assault to allow all Americans to leave. One of the last to do so, Frank Snepp.
I'd gone out with the last CIA contingent. I got on the helicopter, stumbled up the roof up to the rooftop evacuation pad, got into the helicopter, and pulled in several of the Vietnamese agents we'd managed to get inside the embassy walls. And the helicopter began lifting up off the top of the roof of the embassy, and the tail gunner was crouched over his weapon. The back of the helicopter was open, and suddenly green lights, radar lights, began blinking inside the cabin. And the helicopter arched up over the city, and for a moment I could see framed in one of the windows Mimi's Bar, one of the most famous bars in Saigon, where many an American GI had lost his shirt as well as his innocence. And I remember as we touched down on that deck, people all around me were crying. One Vietnamese woman we brought out was holding her child in her arms. We managed to get her and her child over the wall of the embassy, but we'd failed to get her husband. Her life would be forever altered, and we had abandoned so many we should have rescued and gotten out on the final day.
On the last day, the helicopters ferry 7,000 to the evacuation fleet. Weapons are thrown overboard to prevent trouble. Dozens of helicopters flown by South Vietnamese pilots arrive uninvited. The $250,000 machines are ditched to make room for those still arriving. Ambassador Martin wants to extend the evacuation. Washington rejects the recommendation as too risky.
I then drove to my house to pick up my wife. I think the Marine Guard log showed that I was there for 11 minutes. She packed one bag and walked out. She had left everything that we had because, again, to provide this aura of stability, we had not packed anything because the minute that we had picked up one thing to send out, it would have been known all over Saigon. So she paid the sort of a higher penalty than I did in the sense of losing some of the treasured possessions of a lifetime.
Martin is among the very last to leave. At 4:30 a.m. Saigon time, the senior American official in Vietnam gets a final order.
This young helicopter pilot came into my office with this scroll on the back of a pad that I never forget it. I mean, the name of the helicopter was the Lazy Ace, I think. And the President of the United States directs that Ambassador Martin come out on this helicopter. Well, what do you do then? I mean, do you try to emulate Admiral Nelson and put your blind eye to the telescope, you know? I mean, you didn't hear or you didn't get it. And then for 45 years, I had been a disciplined officer of the United States government, and that I would not sort of spoil it in the end by any act of disobedience. And so I got on the chopper and came out.
At 7:53 a.m., April 30th, the last American troops leave. 15 years of U.S. military presence ends. The communists converge on the capital in a 5-pronged assault. They overrun Saigon Airport, occupy the military and police headquarters, then move through the garbage-littered streets past a dazed population. The final hours are mercifully bloodless. A symbolic target is the presidential palace. A single tank provides the battle finale, storming through the iron gates. It is 11 a.m. A lone soldier runs forward to raise the communist flag. By noon, Hanoi's troops fill the city. Their flags are everywhere. At the palace, they arrest South Vietnam's last president, General Duong Van Minh. He is ordered to broadcast a message to his remaining troops. Lay down your weapons and surrender unconditionally.